Before 1964, the American Western was a clean myth, a world of white hats and black hats, where good guys were always good, bad guys were always bad, and the hero always rode into an untouched sunset. Then an Italian director named Sergio Leone picked up a camera, and the West was never the same again. This isn't just the story of some movies. This is the story of a revolution. A revolution that begins with the flick of a match, a squint of the eyes, and the explosive whistle of a flute, because Leone wasn't just making westerns, he was tearing them down and rebuilding them from scratch. Alright, let's just dive right in. The American Western is one of the foundations of Hollywood. It's as iconic as the sign on the hill itself, but its most radical, most influential reinvention didn't come from Monument Valley or some dusty American plain. It came from Rome. This is the story of how Sergio Leone, an Italian who grew up dreaming of America, took its greatest myth and completely remade it in his own unforgettable image. And you don't have to take my word for it. When Quentin Tarantino calls A Fistful of Dollars a film that changed the entire language of cinema, you know we're talking about a seismic shift. To understand Leone's revolution, you have to understand his relationship with America, because it wasn't a place he truly knew. It was a place he imagined, a myth absorbed from thousands of miles away, and that distance turned out to be the key to everything. Imagine growing up in Rome during Mussolini's regime. Official myths everywhere. Parades, propaganda, a state-approved version of reality. But at home, Leone's family was anti-fascist. So, from an early age, he understood something crucial. The myths a country tells about itself and the truth on the ground are often two very different things. After the war, American culture floods into Italy. For Leone, it's an awakening. He watches hundreds of films a month, gangster movies, comedies, and of course, westerns. This isn't just entertainment. It's a raw, powerful new mythology. A cultural shock, as Leone himself called it. But Leone didn't want to imitate American westerns. He wanted to answer them. John Ford's westerns were about building a nation, community, a rosy, fruitful future. Leone saw something else entirely. As a European shaped by the violence of the 20th century, he saw history written not by heroes, but by blood. Where Ford gave us clean-cut men like John Wayne, Leone gave us dirty, unshaven anti-hero. Where Ford believed in moral clarity, Leone gave us a world of brutal gray zones, where almost everyone was in it for themselves. This wasn't just a stylistic change, it was a philosophical one. A direct challenge to the optimistic American myth. When these films reached America, critics were horrified. They called them cynical, sadistic, cheap imitations, and mockingly, they labeled them spaghetti westerns. The name stuck, and it came to define an entirely new genre that would change Hollywood forever. But Leone didn't just change what the West was, he changed how it was filmed. He threw out the rulebook. Dialogue, he believed, was often unnecessary. Silence could say more. He developed a rhythm that was entirely his own. Long stretches of unbearable tension, what he called followed by sudden explosions of violence. His camera work was revolutionary. Extreme close-ups turned faces into landscapes, a bead of sweat, a twitching eye, the space between a hand and a gun. These weren't just details. This was drama. Leone wasn't filming conversations. He was dissecting souls. And you cannot talk about Leone without talking about Ennio Morricone. They'd known each other since childhood. Their collaboration was legendary. Morricone's scores weren't background music, they were characters. Whistles, electric guitars, whip cracks, coyote howls. Less a soundtrack, more a ritual. Often, Leone played the music on set, directing actors to move to its rhythm. The emotion came first. The words came later. This new vision needed a new kind of star. And in a little-known American TV actor, Leone found exactly what he was looking for. Clint Eastwood. Leone famously said he didn't need an actor. He needed a mask. Eastwood wasn't expressive. He was iconic. A block of marble. While other actors worked to show emotion, Eastwood simply existed. And that cool, detached presence became the perfect embodiment of Leone's morally ambiguous world. The man with no name was born. You'd think Hollywood would reject this outsider. Instead, it absorbed him. Leone's influence is everywhere. In the violence of Peckinpah, the control of Scorsese, the obsession of Tarantino. But perhaps his greatest legacy lives in the work of the very man he made a star. In 1992, Clint Eastwood wins the Oscar for Unforgiven, a revisionist Western deeply indebted to Leone. In his speech, Eastwood thanks his mentors. He names Don Siegel, and then he saves the final dedication for Sergio Leone. 2 simple words. The student honoring the master. Leone once said that Americans only rent America temporarily, and when its myths grow stale, they can be evicted or rediscovered. Through his films, Leone discovered another America. Darker, more violent, more honest. He took a dying American genre, drenched it in Italian dust and blood, and returned it to the world as something timeless. Sergio Leone didn't just make movies. He created a new cinematic language, and the question he leaves us with is simple. What other Americas are still out there, waiting to be discovered?